Okay, Bez Hashem, we'll learn here a sugya. This is a sugya that you find in Masechta Ksubis, Daf Lamed Daled, Masechta Shabbos, Gittin, Baba Kama. You can't go anywhere in our yeshiva Masechta without it. It's a Gemara in Chulin and Daf Tezvav. The sugya Ma'aseh Shabbos. It's unfortunate sugya. The sugya where somebody did maybe what he shouldn't have done, or other b'shoigeg, other b'mezid. It's a sugya that's extremely negaya. Some of the biggest shilas in halacha today. The shilah of using the train in Eretz Yisrael, the shilah of using electricity in Eretz Yisrael, and just every type of shilah. Lots of shilas for Bali Tshuva. What happens when somebody did a Ma'aseh Shabbos? He was over in a Vera of Hilchos Shabbos. So Chazal came along and they gave a knas. So we have to don today, what's the knas? When they gave the knas? How do we pass in? Are there any situations that we can be makel on the knas? And to see what's the din in Sveikis. It's a big sugya. I know over here, the Talmidei Chachamim, they don't want the hakdamas, they want the meat and potatoes, so let's get to work. The Gemara says, the Tanya, Hamavashal b'Shabbos b'Shegeg yoichel, b'mezid layoichel divrei Rav Meir. Rav Meir comes along, a very simple agdara. It depends. If you cook on Shabbos, and right away, the Rishonim are quick to point out, this is the Ramah says, it's not just cooking, it's any malacha that a person does on Shabbos, whether it was libin, we'll see soon, whether it could even be boyer, it could be teichen, it could be any of the malachas that a person did. He comes to the table. What happens? He comes to the Shabbos table, and the person tells him, yeah, I was very busy, so I decided to make the egg salad last night. You're listening to this. Wait a minute, if you made the egg salad last night, so you shelled eggs. If you went and you shelled the eggs, that's something that took place way long ago. That took place 7, 10 hours ago, 12 hours ago. So then you're getting nervous. These eggs were not done. Samach l'suda. Are you allowed to eat the egg salad? Somebody says, I was so drained, I decided to make the salad last night. And that's what we're having today at lunch. Salad last night, but you cut the pieces into tiny little pieces. And you didn't do it samach to the suda. What's the din in that case? So let's Bez Hashem. Let's try to see Rav Meir. It's quite simple. Rav Meir says, look, if you're a shreigeg, and the cases we just described, the person was an oimer mutter, we're dealing with a religious woman, a fromm lady, she wasn't amazing. If she was a shreigeg, oimer mutter says the Mishabura is a shreigeg. So shreigeg is mutter, and that's it. You can eat it on Shabbos. That's a sheet of Rav Meir. And mezid, you can't eat. But Motzei Shabbos, you can eat. According to Rav Meir, it's fairly simple sugya. Shreigeg, mutter, mezid, aser. No difference if it's for you, no difference if it's for somebody else. It's very simple. Shreigeg is mutter, mezid is aser, and Motzei Shabbos, everything is mutter. Come to gain Rabbi Yehuda, and we'll see soon that's how the Shulchan Aruch really paskins. And he says, no, not so simple. Everything on Shabbos, every Ma'aseh Shabbos is aser. B'shreigeg yoichel leMotzei Shabbos. If you did something b'shreigeg, so then you can't have it on Shabbos. You accidentally made the eggs in that case. You accidentally shelled the eggs, which was in the boyer. You accidentally cut the pieces into tiny little pieces, and it wasn't right before the meal. So then Shabbos, it's aser. Mezid, Motzei Shabbos is mutter. Mezid, lo yoichel elamis. Mezid lo yoichel elamis. Don't worry about the overnight eggs, Rabbi Isai, because you can put inside the mayonnaise. And then already the Moshe says, no, that's already not a problem of the overnight eggs. We got a much bigger problem. We have a shayla of Chilul Shabbos. But al kapanim mezid lo yoichel elamis. If the person did it in mezid, this is the great chumrah of Rav Meir, that he says that now you're not allowed to eat it. Lo'ilam. Okay, maybe others could, but the person who did it himself, he won't be able to use it forever. To make a long story short, Rabbi say the mezid of Rav Meir is the shreigeg of Rav Yehuda. The mezid of Rav Meir is the shreigeg of Rav Yehuda. The Maisa is another sheet there, Vechem HaSandler. He was much more machmir. And the mezid of Rav Yehuda is the shreigeg of Rav Yechon HaSandler. But we're not going to go into that sheet because we don't paskin like that. La'alacha, the Shulchan Aruch paskins like Rav Yehuda. That's the psak of the Yam Shel Shloima. That's the psak of the Balatanya. That's the psak of the Bach, the Chai Adam. That's the psak of the Ben Ish Chai. And they paskin very simply that mezid is going to be aser for him oilamis. For the person that did it, it'll be aser for oilam, and shreigeg is aser for everyone on Shabbos. That's the shita of the Shulchan Aruch. According to that, we don't have too much leeway. Any action that was done on shreigeg on Shabbos, the whole Shabbos, you can't touch that food. You can't use that food. That's aser. Motzei Shabbos, for other people, it'll be mutter. But for the person himself, the avarian himself, if he's amazed, it's also the oilam. If he's a shreigeg, Motzei Shabbos is mutter. This is the shita of Rabbi Yehuda the way the Shulchan Aruch paskins. However, you have to know that there's a Goyin over here, the Vilna Goyin with the Koyach of the Goyin shook the world with this Psak, Rabbi say. This is one of the most earth-shattering Psakim in the whole entire Shulchan Aruch, where the Goyin was chaylik on the Shulchan Aruch. The Mishnah Berurah at the beginning of his Sefer, he says one of the reasons why you should buy a Sefer, besides the fact that it was written by a Kadosh Baruch Hu through the pen of the Mishnah Berurah, besides that, he doesn't write that. And besides the fact, like the Chazon Ish said, that the Mishnah Berurah was like the Sanhedrin when they sat, the Lishkas HaGozis. Besides that, the Mishnah Berurah says, you know why I should buy my Sefer? Because I bring down the Vilna Goyin, and the Vilna Goyin, I bring them as a Poisik. Many people, until the Mishnah Berurah came along, there were cryptic messages on the side of the Shulchan Aruch written by the Gra. The Mishnah Berurah deciphered those messages, and he said the Goyin is the Yosid Gadol HaRoi Lachriyan. He brings the Goyin many times in his Sefer Mishnah Berurah, and this is a very good example. Over here, the Mishnah Berurah in Sivkot Zion brings the Gra. The Gra paskins like Rav Meir. The Goyin says shoygig is mutter any time that a person did an avera b'shoygig on Shabbos. He's machal Shabbos b'shoygig. We paskin like Rav Meir says the Gra, and we don't ask her. Not for him, not for others. Motzei Mezid, we ask her until Motzei Shabbos. That's a sheet of the Vilna Goyim. The Mishnah Berurah knows he can't start up with the Shulchan Aruch, but it's a Vilna Goyim. So Mishnah Berurah says a very, very important statement. Mishnah Berurah says, "Ubenakim tzorich yishlismech al zeh bebishul b'shoygig." It's interesting, Mishnah Berurah. Mishnah Berurah says you can be seimich on the gra in a situation of shoygig if there's a tzorich. Like let's say you're sitting at that table, and this lady, she says that she went and she shelled the eggs, and she did it 12 hours in advance. So then, albeit that you're allowed to shell an egg before the meal, or whatever amount of time before the meal, we spoke about it in the past, but 12 hours for sure is not considered samach l'suda. And she says to you, I shelled the eggs last night. So here you are, you're at the table, you want to have the egg salad. So if you see that you're going to embarrass her and she's going to be all balaited, she's going to be all upset. If you're going to eat the egg salad, she's going to be all upset. No. So then B'kai Govna, the Goyin says she did it b'shoygig, she was an oimer mutter. So then I decided, Mishnah Berurah paskins, b'makim at tzarich, you can be makel and eat the egg salad. Okay. I don't know if every single egg salad is a makim tzarich, but now we're starting to get a limud. That b'makim tzarich of shoygig, says the Mishnah Berurah, give you saying on the Goyin. Now, there's a very interesting diak over here in the Mishnah Berurah. Tell me what you think about the diak. The Goyin paskins like Rav Meir. The Gra paskins like Rav Meir straight up. That means b'shoygig, mutter on Shabbos always. B'mezid, mutter motzei Shabbos always. That's a sheet of the Gra. But the Mishnah Berurah sounds like you shouldn't really be seimich on the Gra unless it's a situation of two things, shoygig and a tzorich. If there's a tzorich and it's a shoygig, you can be seimich on the Gra. So let me tell you a story, Rabbi Sai. There was a Baal Tshuva that came to ask me a shayla. He told me that his hobby is woodwork. He said most of the wood that is made in his house, the tables, the chairs, he's all, I'm the son of a furniture man, so I can appreciate this. He said most of the tables and the chairs that are in his house, they were made by him. When was his hobby? His hobby was his day off. What was his day off? Before it became Shabbos, it was Saturday. Before he became a Baal Tshuva, Saturday was his day off. Shabbos Kodesh. So mainly he was going and he was making tables and chairs and everything on Shabbos. He became a Baal Tshuva. He said, look, I'm losing my cheshek to become a Baal Tshuva. I'm going to have to get rid of all my tables and chairs, etc., etc. And this situation over here, l'chayra, he was l'chayra amazed. He knows about Shabbos. Okay, you get involved in the shayla of a tinek shenishba and whatnot, but that's not so simple. But let's say he was in Eretz Yisrael, he knew his way around Eretz Yisrael. He knew ganz fine what from Yidnar, the big shayla, many poskim would consider him to be amazing. Moshe Zechreinu Levracha considered such a person. If he knew he wasn't like Chves, behind the Iron Curtain and never heard of anything, many poskim consider such a person to be amazing. So that means this Baal Tshuva is sitting at a chair and a table, Hashoyim Shabbos, Habenim Abbas, and l'chayr l'psaka the Shulchan Aruch is that it is usher for him to use this table and chair oilamis. Because Rabbi Yehuda paskins, if you did an action amazing on Shabbos, being bayin on Shabbos is certainly a Nissa Deraisa, and he was over a Nissa Deraisa, and therefore l'chayr it should be usher for him oilam. And this l'chayr, if you look in the Mishnah Berurah, that's what one would probably say, because the Mishnah Berurah only told us that when can I be seimich on the Gra? Because it's true according to the Gra. This person was amazing, but Rav Meir's shita is Motzei Shabbos, everything becomes mutter. But that's the Goyin's shita. The Mishnah Berurah says he should only be seimich on the Gra, b'makim shoygig, in a Makom Tzarech, like as if to say, Lamaisa the Shulchan Aruch argues on this. So for a shoygig, we're going to find some type of a heter, because we feel bad for the guy if it's a Makom Tzarech. But for a Mazid, we don't need to find a heter for the person. But comes again the Shevet HaLevi with his great Koyach HaKula and Chelik Ches and Siman Samach Beis. And he talks about a similar situation about somebody that sewed his clothing on Shabbos, similar situation. He was about tshuva, and he says a klal. He says it's true if you look in the Mishnah Berurah, it sounds like we're only seimich on the goyim b'makom shoygig. He says, but why? Why? Because usually, why should I find a way to help out this mason? Let him suffer. Chazal wanted him to suffer. They wanted him to lose out. They wanted him to get his knas. So what are we going to help the fellow for? But says the Shevet HaLevi, but we find all over Shatz and Poiskin, Takonas HaShovim. We see Shok through Chazal on the Takona to make sure it's easy for a person to do tshuva. So over here, we found a moifis. We found the case of where we want to help a mazid. If we want to help a mazid, so that even the Mishnah Berurah might agree, it's that normally you're not going to find the case of being able to normally you're not going to be able to find a case of where we want to help out a mazid. Here we found about tshuva, we want to help out this mazid in order to make it easy for him to do tshuva. So Mela, this is another example where you'll paskin like the Gra. And therefore the first Shabbos, I guess if he did tshuva on Shabbos, he won't be able to use the item. But by Motzei Shabbos onward, he'll already be able to use the item. So this is the Akdama. The din of Maaseh Shabbos is not a din deraisa. Although Rabbi Yochanan ben Asandler brings psukim, we don't paskin like Rabbi Yochanan ben Asandler. We paskin that the whole din of Maaseh Shabbos is only a din derabanan. That's a Mishnah Berurah and Tzivkat and base. But Akapanim, it's nonetheless, it's a Chamer Dika halacha. It's musmach on the pasuk, but because it's derabanan, it's going to have certain coolers as we're going to see in Yetz Hashem. But you have to know, just to bring out a point, what do we do? Halacha l'maisa, you have a person, he's sitting at a table, and he gets a cholent on his tie. Nope, he gets cholent on his tie right away without even thinking. He takes a little seltzer and he wipes it off. He was over on a Issa Deraisa according to all the poskim that ever lived and ever will live. He did Lieben Deraisa, no Shaila. He washed his tie. No, even if you wash it off with a little water, with a little spit, the grass says, that's it, you did Issa Deraisa. And he did it. Is that called Mazid? So this is a Shaila I want them to think about. Is this called Mazid, or did he do it b'behala? Is that, what's behala? The person's not thinking, he right away takes the little seltzer and he wipes it off. He's a from Jew. He knows he's not allowed to leave it on Shabbos. He knows it's Shabbos. What the world did he do over here? He's not a shaygeg. What is this guy? So the chayra, this would be called, I suppose, behala. He did it out of bedlam without thinking. Is behala considered mazid? Is it considered shaygeg? Is it oinus maybe? He was not in control. I went to Olam to think about this. There's a Taz in not our Siman, in Siman Shin Lamed Daled and Sif Beis. The Taz over there is talking about the famous sugya, the whole parak in Shabbos, 1,000 times if the house is Chalila burning down. So the lacha is there's certain kulas that Chazal gave when the person's house is burning down, and there's certain chumras they gave. One of the reasons why they gave the person certain kulas, the lashon of the Taz is like this, because me'acha who boil harbe, which is kimat the lashon Gemara, because he's very, very nervous and he's hits. It's bedlam pashit. The house is Chalila burning down. Because he's boil harbe on his money, he's very nervous for his money. Over there, he's also talking in the Taz about a situation where a person is hiding from the gangsters and the bandits, right? And they're coming to take his money. So because he's nervous that they're going to take his money, yichbeh, that's the lashon of the Gemara. He's going to put out the fire, yichbeh. But the Taz adds a word, b'mezid. What do you mean he'll yichbeh b'mezid? Didn't the Taz just tell us a second ago that why is he putting out the fire? Because he's behala. It sounds like the Taz is teaching us a big side here, side. When a person does an action out of behala, what does it say in the Hashanah side? Go through all the different things and all the different problems in the world, and then we say Hashanah nefesh mi behala Hashanah. A behala, a situation where a person is not thinking. He's not thinking. So the Mekai Governor, that might be considered amazing. If he's doing it out of nervousness, he's about to put out the fire. That's not called shoydig. That's called mazid. So this fellow over here, his tie just got dirty. Whoa, what's going on over here? He's not thinking, and he just quickly does that. He's behala. He's not thinking. Maybe you're supposed to think on Shabbos. Maybe that's not called a shoydig. That's called a mazid. In Kain Rabbi say, maybe he's never allowed to wear this tie again. According to the Psak of the Shulchan Aruch, again, don't get confused. According to Reb Meir, it's true. It's mutter moite Shabbos, even if it's mazid. But the Shulchan Aruch, if it's not a mokum tzarech, the Shulchan Aruch paskins, the Goyim paskins, like Rabbi Meir. But the Shulchan Aruch paskins like Rabbi Yehuda, which means on Shabbos it's for sure also. But this fellow did it b'mezid. So now b'mezid, Motzei Shabbos for him is also the oilam. So I decide, what do you do with this tie? Is he allowed to ever wear this tie again? The shaila is there any way to be mevatel the Maisa that he did? So comes again, Marita Kizacher Baisai. Comes again the Ben Ish Chai in Shana Beis, Pashas Vayechi Oisi Test. There's a shtickle idea over here. Maybe what you could do is you could go and dirty the tie. You can go and dirty up the tie, and it's got to be a dirty stain that makes it that you won't be able to wear the tie. But maybe you could dirty up the tie and then wash it again, because now you're making it that you got no hana from your Maisa Shabbos. The Isra of hana and Maisa Shabbos, you're not allowed to get hana for Maisa Shabbos. But maybe this isn't considered you're getting hana for Maisa Shabbos. Now, it's a very interesting thing. The Ben Ish Chai and Rav Payal and their lashon is that he has to go and dirty it during the week. Interesting. I guess because that would be considered fixing it. That would be considered fixing the tie. Till now is an unusable tie. But then if you go and dirty it during the week, you're going and making it into a usable tie. You won't even be able to do this on Shabbos. Now, what examples can we be soymech on the Mishnah Berurah, where the Mishnah Berurah tells us that we can be soymech on the Gra when a person did something b'shoigeg? So, for example, what's the din of chalent? You have a situation that b'shoigeg, well, what could be a case? The guy wakes up, he's all famated, he just wakes up and he just runs downstairs. He knows it's already late and he doesn't realize how late it is. But really, he doesn't realize he overslept to such an extent that it's already Shabbos. I once got this shaila. He overslept to such an extent, and it was already 7 o'clock at night. This was in the winter time. He slept, and now it's 7 o'clock at night. He runs downstairs. This has nothing to do with Rabbeinu Tam and Ish Rabbeinu Tam. He runs downstairs and he quickly plugs in the hot plate and he cooked the cholent on Shabbos Kodesh Mamish. After a while, he realized. The problem is, if he would have realized right away, we probably would have we would have told him to take it off, so that it shouldn't cook on Shabbos. But he realized too late, and this person cooked the cholent on Shabbos. Is that called a shoigeg? L'chayra, he's aiming a day that it's Shabbos. He cooked it in a situation where he doesn't know that it's Shabbos. Sorry, in Yerushalayim Kodesh, we need the air conditioning. But he cooked it in a way where he didn't know that it's Shabbos. So that's aiming a day of Shabbos. He was over b'shoigeg. So now is he going to be allowed to eat this cholent for Shabbos? What's the case? He was mechalel Shabbos b'shoigeg. It's cholent, a tzorich that you can be seimech on the gra. Like the Mishnah Berurah said, the makim tzorich, you be seimech on the goyim. Now I would have thought, where do you find the rules of where do we find the person can be seimech and tzorich? It's in Hilchos Amir La'akum and Siman Shin Chaf Hey. Over there's a whole bunch of situations of where we say something is considered a tzorich. And I would have thought this fits in to a tzorich. Over there is discussing being matter a shvut b'makom tzorich. And there's different things that the Mishnah Berurah brings down are considered a shvut. Over here, very interesting, in the Ma'or Shabbos, in Chelik Aleph, in Siman Yudches, HaRav Zayin, he asked many Gedolei Yisrael, Shlomo Zalman, Rav Yashiv, Evan Yisrael, Dayan Fisher, the Beis Din HaGadol over here. And they all seem to say that cholent is not a tzorich. Now let me explain, Rabbi Isai, I'm not coming to disturb the peace. Cholent is a very big tzorich, there's no question. Cholent is Einik Shabbos, and cholent is Kiddush Shem Shemayim, your wife's cholent, there's no shay. However, we're trying to figure out here, are we allowed to paskin against the Ikar halacha? The halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda, and that this cholent is usher until Motzei Shabbos. Now we're trying to figure out, is it enough of a tzorich that we could be seimech on a shita that we don't really paskin with? So on that, these gedolim are saying that no, that's not enough. If you don't have any other food, no, verstetzach. But today, very clear, cholent is like just an extra by a lot of people. Verstetzach, if the only food that you have, the only hot food you have is cholent, I don't believe that anybody would say that you can't be seimech. Now you have to know, he brings over there l'hoiris nasin, that he says, cholent is always Einik Shabbos, and that's always a seimech, and you be that's a tzorich, and you can be seimech on the gra. But we're going to see soon, Rabbi say, actually, let's see right now, many times the cholent case that we're going to have in many situations is anyways going to not necessarily be nechlal in a Maisa Shabbos. What do I mean, Rabbi Isai? There's a very important bialoch over here. The Bir Halacha brings down in Sif Dalit, in our Siman, in Siman Shin Yud Ches, the Bir Halacha brings down that anytime there's a machlekes hapoiskim, anytime you have a machlekes respectable poiskim that are brought in halacha and whatnot, we're not going to make a Ma'aseh Shabbos on something that Rabbeinu Tam would do. We're not going to make the Ma'aseh Shabbos because a different Rishon argues. On something that the Rashba would do, we're not going to make a Ma'aseh Shabbos because this sheet holds not. What's a good example of this? Let's say Friday night, a person doesn't realize, he takes the lid off of the cholent, and then he looks inside the cholent, and he sees the potatoes aren't fully cooked, and the meat isn't fully cooked. Without thinking, again, that's where all the problems start. He takes the lid, and he puts it back on. Okay, he's not really thinking. I don't know if that's called Shraga. He knows that it's now going to cause it to cook faster. And that's an Yisr Deraisa, says the Mishnah Berurah. You're making it go from 50% cooked, 60% cooked, 70% cooked to 100% cooked. And you're doing it faster. Until now, it would have taken, if the lid was off, it would have taken 2 hours. Now it's only going to take an hour. That's called Kiruv Bishul. That's an Yisr Deraisa. Not allowed to do that on Shabbos. Is that going to answer the challenge? So this Bir Halacha is the savior. Since there are shittas we show them, which we don't pass them like, but there are shittas we show them that hold. That cholent, once it's ready, Michael Ben Drusai, whatever Michael Ben Drusai is, third cooked, a half cooked, 50%, whatever it is. But let's say this case was 70% cooked. It's Michael Ben Drusai. It's not yet fully cooked. So then, since there are Rishonim that hold after Michael Ben Drusai, you're not over on Bishul. So then it could be, it's the halacha. If you put on the lid, we're not going to ask this challenge because since Ma'aseh Shabbos is only a Drabanan, we didn't make this din Drabanan b'kai governor that the Rashba himself would put on the lid of the challenge. That's one example. Another, any suffix Ma'aseh Shabbos, we're going to usually be makel on. Now, don't get confused. Everybody say. If you have Ben Hashmashas, for example, and somebody does something Ben Hashmashas, so the Mishnah Berurah brings down in Reish Tamachalav Sidkat in Vav, which I think the Oilam probably saw when they learned recently Ben Hashmashas, when you do something during Ben Hashmashas, we pass in that Ben Hashmashas is Vadai Aser. We just don't know when exactly Shabbos starts. So whatever Ben Hashmashas is, we Aser any Ma'aseh Shabbos that occurs during Ben Hashmashas. However, let's say it's a Ben Hashmashas, which is a fight. This is a big savior. The Goyim's Ben Hashmashas is the first 18 minutes, 13 minutes, 20 minutes, something like that. Rabbeinu times Ben Hashmashas is not till much later on. If somebody goes and does something in the first 13 minutes, okay, the exact numbers we spoke about the last time, but let's say somebody doesn't realize it's Shabbat, like the example I gave a minute ago. And he goes and he doesn't realize, and he puts something on, I'll say it even stronger. Let's say he does it b'mezid. He should not do this. But he gets all nervous, what's going to be? I'm not going to have cholent. He looks at the clock, it's 3 minutes after Shkia, he takes the cholent, he plugs it in. No, are we going to answer that challenge? The Goyin would answer that challenge. The Goyin would answer that challenge. The Goyin would for sure answer that challenge. The Goyin would consider that to be Mezid, and it was Ben Hashmashas. So even Reb Meir is not going to help you over here. But since we know there's another sheet out there of what's Ben Hashmashas, and Rabbeinu Tam and many Rishonim and Paiskim Nachreinim hold that this is not yet Ben Hashmashas. So if Rabbeinu Tam would do it, you shouldn't do it. We pass him that a person should be machmer from Shkia, from before Shkia, Taisim Shabbos and whatnot. But upon him, that's at least going to be a suffix pluksa, suffix Ma'aseh Shabbos. We're going to be makel. So even though he did it b'mezid, Rabbi said, even though he did it b'mezid, and this has nothing to do with the goyim. This has nothing to do with the mokim sayrich of the Mishnah Berurah that you can be saying on the goyim. So that's Rabbi say that topic. Now, the Ma'aseh we pass in la halacha, Ma'aseh Shabbos is aser. Let's say in Rabbi Yehuda's case, we'll talk about Rabbi Yehuda. If he did it b'shoigig, it's aser till Ma'aseh Shabbos. But not kadesh yasu. We know by Amir La'akum, there's a concept of a Kadesh Yasu, but that concept is only by Amir La'akum. When a Yid does a malacha on Shabbos, let's say Rabbi Yehuda b'shoigig, he went and he accidentally cooked something on Shabbos. Okay, we pass in like Rabbi Yehuda, let's say it's not a mokim tzarech, and now let's say the cholent case, and you'll pass in like those achreinim that it's not a tzarech because you have schnitzel or whatever. Okay, so now that cholent is also Motzei Shabbos, but it's mutter miyad. You don't have to wait Kadesh Yasu. I think the Olam knows Kadesh Yasu means the amount of time to actually go and do this malacha. The idea of Kadesh Yasu is we don't want you to benefit from the malacha. That concept is a concept in Amir La'akum. And the Mefarshim explained, and Mogen Avram, the Taz, Mishnah Berurah, and Tzidkat Nei brings down both of these svaras, that what's the svaras of Kadesh Yasu? Because we don't want you to have a Yetzirah to tell the guy to do something for you. So the fellow's going to say, you know what, I'm going to tell the guy to do it. because I need it ready miyad Motzei Shabbos. So therefore, Chazal Aser Amir La'akum, whenever you're not allowed to get enough from a guy, you're also not allowed to get enough from the guy until Motzei Shabbos Kadesh Yasu, the amount of time it would have taken to do that malacha. But says the Magen Avraham a brilliant thing. He says that's all by a guy, but by Israel, the Israel's not going to listen to you. We don't have to. We're not worried you're going to come to tell the Jew to do something. Why? Because he's not going to do it for you. Why in the world would he do it for you? So therefore, whatever was necessary a Jew on Shabbos is only us on Shabbos, and once it's mutter Motzei Shabbos, shoygig Reb Yehuda, it's mutter miyad. That's what the Magen Avraham says. The Taz says another thing. He says, you know why else? Because people, Amir La'akum, people think, Amir La'akum is like a minig or something. No, it's a minig. I'm not knowing that minig. Don't forget, Rabbi Isai, minig is Oisius Gehenim when you switch around the letters. Amir La'akum is a din. Amir La'akum is halacha. The Chidah says Amir La'akum is what's ma'akiv is a geula. But unfortunately, a lot of people are lax in Amir La'akum. Oh, so says the Taz, that's why we asked it till Kadesh Yasu. Because we know the person's going to have the Yitzhar to tell the guy to do something for him. We tell him, no, you're not going to benefit, so therefore don't tell the guy. Says the Taz, but that's all by Amir La'akim, which is kal by people. But Chil Shabbos by Israel, if Nehiver, who's going to tell a Jew to go and do something for him? That's not kal be'enav, so we have nothing to worry about. And therefore, when they asked something on Shabbos, they only asked it until Motzei Shabbos. Immediately Motzei Shabbos, it is permitted. Now, I say, what's the nafkamina of these timing? He says the Prima Gadim in Shin Chafei Oischav Beis the Davar Nifla. He said the nafkamina is a mummer. Achilaini. Rabbi say, Achilaini, if you tell him to do something for you on Shabbos, he's going to listen because he doesn't care. So according to that reasoning, we should answer Kadesh Yasu. We should answer the amount of time it takes to get that item. But according to the other logic, the other lumdus of the task, that it's kal be'enav, Amir La'akim is kal. So Rabbi say, Amir La'akim is kal, but telling a chilayni, there's no firm person that would tell a chilayni to do something for him. So therefore, we're not afraid he's going to come to do it. And this is the reason why Rabbi say that many achreinim, there's a hard tzvi about this, there's a Kaf HaChaim about this, there's a Prima Gadim in 2 places about this. Many achreinim say that everything we're discussing today is about a frum yid that did something b'meidid, did something b'shaygeg or whatever. But if you have a chilayni, you have a mummer, and he's somebody that acts like a guy, his din is like a guy also. And here, the din of a guy is a chumrah. What do I mean it's a chumrah? It means if the chilayni person went and did a Maisa Shabbos for you, shoygeg meizid irrelevant right now, but you're going to have to wait Kadesh Yasu, the amount of time it would take to do that malacha Motzei Shabbos. Whereas if you would do it, it would be mutter miyad. But if the chilayni does it, it might not be mutter until the time of Kadesh Yasu. This is a big fight in the Paiskim, I must tell you. The nafkamina is very, very numerous, the nafkaminas. But I must tell you, in Eretz Yisrael, sometimes you have this shiloh. Let's say there's I think they play over here soccer. Where I come from in the Haim, they play basketball and football. But over here, the things Israelis, they play with their feet. They play soccer. So I remember when I was learning how to do the halachas of chalitza in Tel Aviv. So I saw such a strange thing when there was a fellow came in to the beis din there, and they were trying to figure out if he's a lefty or a righty. They're trying to figure out if he's a lefty or righty. So what they do, they took a soccer ball and they threw it at his feet, and they wanted to see which one he would kick back. There I am in the middle of the beis din over here. The Chashav Adai and Dayan Salomon takes off his frock, and Amber Darnley starts playing soccer in the middle there, right? I asked him, there can't be a better way to figure out if the fellow is a lefty. He said they used to tell the person, come here. And they found that everybody's a lefty. What's the shot? Because in the army, how do they march? Left, right, left, right, left. So they start marching with the left foot. So they realize it's not a raya. But Akapanim, now with a soccer ball, that's the easiest way. Which foot does he kick with? No. So let's say this Chalila, there's a soccer match on Shabbos. And who's filming the soccer match? And he's doing it for Jewish people. A Jewish fellow is filming it. Let's say it's in Eretz Yisrael, and he's filming it for Jewish people, for the people, by the people. So by side, the film what we saw right now, this is going to be a big problem. Here you have Mazid. Wait a minute. And so you can say, yeah, but he's doing it for others. Okay, but we're saying now if he's a chiloini, then it's usher, till Motzei Shabbos, Kadesh Yasu. If I say, what's the Kadesh Yasu of a soccer match? La'olam Vad. Because that soccer match, you can never replay that soccer match. The exact motions and the exact kicks and the exact everything that was done over there, the Kadesh Yasu of that, what does Kadesh Yasu mean? It means go and kivyachol, you're not going to benefit from this piece of chicken that was cooked because it takes 2 hours to cook. So we say, you have to wait 2 hours after Shabbos. That's nice for a piece of chicken, that if I would just wait 2 hours, that's the amount of time it takes to cook the exact same piece of chicken. But that's not going to work for a soccer match, because the soccer match is something that the Kadesh Yatsu of that is the exact same soccer match. How could you replay the soccer match? It's impossible. So therefore, Rav Elyashiv was known to have said in this case that those pictures, those videos, they'd be also the oilam because of Kadesh Yatsu. Now, there's a lot more, but we have a lot more to get to. A lot of shilos over here. Everybody's side. This has to do with the bus, the first bus from the Kaisel, which is a lot of shilos, because again, it's a chiloini, so maybe we have to wait Kadesh Yasu. But first of all, that's a shiloh. And second of all, where is the chayfetz? In Ma'aseh Shabbos, we usually aser a chayfetz. We say this chicken chazal aser, right? What are we asering by the case of the bus that the fellow drove on Shabbos to bring here for Motzei Shabbos? What are we going to ask her? The bus? The bus didn't do anything. The fire was done already. Maybe there's no chayfetz that we can ask her. This is a big topic. But Azman Kotzer, but the truth is, by the Kaisel, it's usually not Negeya, because usually the first bus of the Kaisel anyways is not leaving till at least 30 minutes. And since it's not leaving till 30 minutes, so usually, according to some shittas, it could be there is already a Kadesh Yasu. And I don't know how pashut it is that he's driving the Chlal on Shabbos anyways, but let's go weiter. So Rabbi say, let's see now a shayla. What happens if a fellow walks to shul on Shabbos and he didn't do what it says in the Mishnah? They say a story that they told Reb Chaim Soloveitchik. Somebody came to Reb Chaim Soloveitchik and told him that he just realized that for 2 years there was something in his pocket, and he's been carrying every single Shabbos for 2 years, and he never. What kind of tshuva does he have to do for the Chilul Shabbos and for the so Chaim Soloveitchik told him, he said to him, listen, Chilul Shabbos it really wasn't, because you knew it was Shabbos and you knew carrying is aser, so that wasn't called Chilul Shabbos. That's misasik. However, he says what you were over on was din of the Chazal. Chazal said chayiv adam u'mashmesh. You have to check your pockets on Erev Shabbos. You were over on the din of Chazal. So what happens? A fellow walks to shul. He was over on the din of Chazal, and he comes to the shul. He puts his hand in his pocket, and he sees he has tissues in his pocket. Thinks to himself, "Gavaldik, because I have a shtickle cold. This is Gavald, but there's no Erev, and I just carried on Shabbos, Now, I must tell you, everybody say, which is something I forgot to mention before, that if a person does a Ma'aseh Shabbos b'mezid on a Darabanan, so then that's also aser the whole Shabbos. If he does a Ma'aseh Shabbos b'Darabanan on a Darabanan b'shtoigeg, so then we hold its mutter. We say that if Ma'aseh Shabbos b'Darabanan on shoigeg is mutter. No, Misatzik isn't going to be worse than shoigeg. If he's in a place without an Erev and it's a Carmelis, and he was only over on a Darabanan, so then he'll be allowed to use those tissues on Shabbos. But let's say the case is it was Reshut HaRav in Mamish, 100%, and he's walking in the street, and he gets to shul, and he reaches into the pocket, and he realizes, I have tissues in my pocket. What was he over on? Oitza. Over on Nissa Deraisa. Okay. Now, can he use those tissues? Can you use those tissues on Shabbos? Okay. What was this? It's not shoigig, it's not mezid, it's misatzik. Did Chazal make a knas on misasik? First, before we get to the Gra, let's down on the sheet of the Shulchan Aruch. The Shulchan Aruch said shoigig is aser by yoyim. So is this even shoigig? Maybe it's less than shoigig. Maybe it's like an oinus. Misvara Rabbi Sai, everyone would probably have thought, oinus, Chazal wearing geyser and an oinus, a shoigig I can hear, a mezid I can hear, but an oinus, and Mustami you can use the tissues, even according to the Shulchan Aruch. But Rabbi Sai, it's a shtickle toyis in Lamdis l'chayra. If you look in the Gemara, Rabbi Sai, you'll see that the reason really we weren't supposed to be geyser on shoigig at all. Why are you giving the guy a knas on shoigig? He accidentally cooked. What do you want from him? So the Gemara says because we are koinis shoigig atu mezid. The machlekes Rav Meir and Rav Yehuda, did we make a knas of shoygeg? Otu will come to do it amazing. More so, did we make a knas for shoygeg because any person that we're going to tell them, oh, there's no knas. If you're a shoygeg, say, oh, I was a shoygeg. So Chazal said, no, you're not going to work over here. Bain if you did it b'shoygeg, bain if you did it b'mezid, Rav Yehuda and the Shulchan Aruch Paskin, you're out. So Vaisai comes again the Oinig Yontif in Oyer Chaim Simon Klaf, and he says a davar very mustaber. He says that therefore, even if a person does it b'misasek, we should also give him a knas, because what's going to happen? Every person that's amazing is going to say, "Oh, how'd you get those tissues here? You're amazing." He's going, "No, I was misasek. I'm going to have the same problem." So the Oinig Yontif, and so to the Minchas Baruch, they say a very mistabertic thing. Again, I saw one sefer that argues on this. Le'evanti, I don't understand. He writes the sefer Le'evanti. I don't understand the Tam Lahachmer and Ira Baisai. I don't understand the Tam to be Mako. The whole reason Chazal made a knas of shoygeg atu mezid is because we don't want the person to say I was a shoygeg when he was really amazing. So instead, he'll say I was a misasik. So Chazal did give a knas on a misasik. So go back to our case. This guy comes to shul, he has the tissues in the pocket. Is he allowed to use the tissues? The Shulchan Aruch would say no. The Shulchan Aruch would say no. But now you know the Mishnah Berurah. The Mishnah Berurah says that in a case of a tzairich, you could be saimich on the goyin. No, if he has a shtickle cold, so it could be saimich on the goyin. The oid, we could be myself. We had the chayyadam that brings from Rabbeinu Yoina that, like we said before, maybe over here there was no ma'aseh Shabbos bichlal because nothing was done to the chayfetz of the tissue. The tissue is the same tissue. It was only placed in a different place. Who said that's so pashut that we make a ma'aseh Shabbos in a situation where nothing changed in the chayfetz? Ayin and Chayyadam, which I think the Olam saw. You should know, Rabbi said, there's a lot of these types of svaras in Ma'aseh Shabbos. Remember the cases we said before, Rabbi said about Boirer and about Toichin. I saw a very geshmak svara in the Kseisa Shulchan, which again, these svaras, you could be mitzaref. If it's a shoygeg, you have in the back pocket, you know shoygeg according to the Gra. The Oid, maybe by Boirer, the Arshitas Rishonim, that case I mentioned before might not be in the Sidaraisa. And then I saw in the Kseisa Shulchan another tzirif of a svara. He says, a nice svara. He says, maybe they never made a Ma'aseh Shabbos on something that I could have done it beheter. It's a very logical thing. Maybe the only time they made a Ma'aseh Shabbos is when the only way to get this result is by doing an Isser. So then Chazal said, you're not going to benefit. But maybe Chazal never made a Ma'aseh Shabbos on something that you have to go out of your way to do the Avera. Let's take the example of Toichin, right? So Toichin, there's ways to get it very small before you eat. Is if you cut up the salad right before you eat. So the maybe Chazal never answered, maybe they answered a chayfetz that you cannot get the benefit of this chayfetz without doing a chil Shabbos. They answered that. But maybe Chazal never answered a chayfetz that I could have done a better. So they never answered that. So even though you did a better, I'm not saying this svara would be enough by itself, but if you add it to the fact that it's shoygeg, if you add it to the fact that there might be a certain rishon, so then we would certainly have what to talk about. Another thing to think about, let's say a person walks into the bathroom, it's Friday night, late at night, he's not thinking, and the light was off in the bathroom. He's got to turn on the light in the bathroom before Shabbos. Nope. Without thinking, he's walking, it's Friday night, he turns on the light. Oops. What is that? Is that shoygeg? What is that? Maybe it's misasik. What is it? The truth is, according to what we're saying, it doesn't make a difference. Because we're saying shoygeg is the same as misasik, klape the rules of Ma'aseh Shabbos. And therefore, same thing, it's probably going to be a shoygeg. And even if it's a misasik, it won't matter. But Chazal will say that if it's a tzoirich, he'll be able to use that bathroom. If he has a different bathroom, let him use a different bathroom. Okay, but what is it? Stam, just to know. So I would think a lot of us would think it's probably misasik. They're not thinking and whatever. You know what? The Gemara seems to say not like that. The Gemara brings down the story of Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Shmuel was hovering and learning. He was in the learning in the sugya. And Rabbi Shmuel, he said, nah, I don't need to worry about the nair. I'm not going to tip the nair. I'm not going to do havara. Don't worry about me. And then he was around in the learning, and he tipped the nair. And he tipped the nair. Says Rabbi Yankee Fisher, what was that all about? It wasn't that he totally didn't even know and his hands were flopping around. He obviously couldn't see something. He wasn't thinking. He lost his thoughts for a moment. That's what's called a person that does something out of herigel. Hergel, you see in the Gemara over there, Rabbi Shmuel said that when the base of Mikdash will be built, I'm going to bring a korban chates shmeina. So you see that, no, that is also considered a shaykik. Now, again, like I said, there's no nafkamina, because bein if it's shaykik, bein if it's misasik, in our situation, we're going to make a Ma'aseh Shabbos. But it's very interesting to know. Very interesting to know.
What happens if you accidentally brush against the light switch? When I was in yeshiva, we used to call that a garnished. That's not even a misasik l'chayr, right?
Yes, that's interesting, because if he did it like that, so there's no shayla that it's not his mice at all. That's a very interesting shayla. Let's see, what would we say? I wonder out loud if you could say as far as that even the Oinig Yontif can agree. Because if you have something that it's so clear from the tzura of the mice that he did, that it has nothing to do with the mazid, then maybe everyone would agree we would never be kindness or shaykik got to mazid in that case. But that's the big chiddush, and you need a big person to say that. So I have to think about that.
One other question, if I may. The Shabura brings that a saimach on a haras chacham is considered to be a shaykik. So I once had a case where I did something on the basis of the mashgiach at a kiddush. Was war die gepasken wegen dem?
The stomach, it means somebody who has a samchus that people would rely on him. And I imagine that would
qualify.
Stomach. I want to tell you something interesting. This halacha of haras chacham, some interesting. I'll just throw it to the Talmidei Chachamim. This halacha that haras chacham is called a shaygig is brought in the Knesset. I wasn't going to mention this, but once it's mentioned, it's brought in the Knesset like a Doyle, it's brought in the Mogen Avram, it's brought in the HaRav, it's brought in the Ber Heitev, it's brought in the Graz, it's brought in the Aruch HaShulchan, it's brought in the Tosfos Shabbos, it's brought in the Chum Seifer, it's brought in the Das Torah, the Bijana, it's brought Mamish, Kabachayim, Tosfos Shulchan, everywhere, all the way to the Shmir Shabbos Kilchasa. Did anybody notice that from that list is one person I didn't mention who doesn't bring it? I don't know why, but the Mishnah Berurah doesn't seem to bring it. There's another place in Siman Tav Tzadi Vav talking about something totally different. And Sivkot and Beis over there that the Mishnah Berurah brings it. I just find it very intriguing why our Rebbe doesn't bring it. I'll let the Adam think about it. Let's go weiter. The next big shayla Abayisai in Ma'aseh Shabbos is the halacha of Lemishin is Bashel B'Shviloi. Lemishin is Bashel B'Shviloi. What does it mean, Lemishin is Bashel B'Shviloi? So this is the Mishnah Berurah and Sivkot and Hay says that if the person who's doing the action is doing it not for himself, he's doing it for someone else. What's the din? Is that called that he has the same din as the person that did the Aveira? Or no, he's called Acherim. What's the nafkamina? Very simple. Let's say it's Rabbi Yehuda and he did something b'mezid. Let's go back to the guy who made the chairs and tables. All right, let's say he made chairs and tables for you, b'mezid, on Shabbos. So we know the law is mezid is aser for the olam, for that person himself. And for other people, it's mutter miyad. What if he did it for you? So there's a Mogen Avram, but the Mishnah Berurah paskins that it's considered acherim. That's the sheet of the Mishnah Berurah, and therefore Motzei Shabbos b'mezid is mutter miyad. He went and he did something on Shabbos. See an example of this in a moment. But he went and he did something on Shabbos. It's not called that he did it for you. That's called acherim, even if he did it for you. More so, Rabbi say, there is a Nahar Shalom that says his bnei bayis, his children, are considered like him, but you should know, I did not find this brought in the Levush, in the Taz, in the Mogen Avram, in the Tosfos Shabbos, in the HaRav, Shulchan Shleim, in the Graz, the Aruch HaShulchan, the Mishnah Berurah. They all don't bring it. It sounds like, from our Rebbe, the Mishnah Berurah, that if somebody does something for you, that is considered acherim. Now, the Maisa, there's a big shayla here. I want to ask the Olam what they think. L'chayra, l'fi this, it should come out that any product made in Eretz Yisrael by Chilainim, and they're making it to sell. So l'chayra, l'fi what you just heard, it should come out that tissues, all the things today, the tissues, bottles, everything in the world, everything, l'tzareinu laida, which is made in Eretz Yisrael. So it is possible to find out when products are made, Rabbi Yisrael. There are codes on the containers, etc. And l'chayra, l'fi what I just said, you shouldn't have to find out when the product was made. And you just look at the barcode, you shouldn't have to care. Because let's say the worst situation, it was made on Shabbos. So now what? It was made, let's say, b'mezid. Okay, so those people in the factory, I don't know if they can't use it on Motzei Shabbos. And they can't use the loilum. Sorry, they're amazed that they can't use the loilum. But me, I'm not them. They made it for you. Mishnah Berurah Paskins, if they make it for you, even Mazid, it's mutter, Maitei Shabbos. Maybe Kadesh Yasu, whatever, Seder. By the time it gets to the stores, it's Kadesh Yasu. Now, Paisai, that's what should come out, Lalacha. And it sounds like even from the Igros Moshe and Chelik Beis and Simon Mem Zayin, just like that. I developed today, many of the poskim all bring a famous Ksav Sofer in Simon Nun, who's talking about a situation of a restaurant, and he was cooking food and he was cooking for other people. And in this situation over here, the Ksav Sofer is Mila two problems. One problem is Mila is Lifnei Iver, causing them to cook. And the second problem is Mila is this problem of their cooking for you. Now the Ksav Sofer says, if they're doing something bikfias, not just like a one-time thing. So Ksav Sofer wants to say that the Mishnah Berurah, doesn't quote the Mishnah Berurah, but the poskim that bring down this idea of for you not being a problem is only when it's like a one-time thing. So he says a restaurant that they're doing bikfias, that's a vada for you and it's asur la'olam. That's what the Ksav Sofer says. I must tell you, the Welt brings this Ksav Sofer. It's a very famous Ksav Sofer. This Ksav Sofer, it's going to come out that if you have the ability to look at the packaging and see on the packaging, they're doing it b'kfiyas, and you can figure out that this product was made on Shabbos, you shouldn't buy that product. L'chayra. Ali Mitzchos, the Welt doesn't check. The only thing I can tell you is that I didn't see this halacha anywhere except for the Ksav Sofer, which means that the Eli Rabbah, the Tzitz Shabbos, and the Baal Tanya, and the Aruch HaShulchan, and the Mishnah Berurah, and the Moshe, like I mentioned before, in Yardei Chil Beis Soif Simon Mem Zayin, they all don't say this. Nobody makes this Bamed Dvar Mamurim of the Ksav Sofer. And it would sound like that they don't make this chilik. Ich have Moira to say this because it's you do a dik chilik, and I don't want to be the first person to say it, but it's definitely Ali Mitzchos for people that have never heard of this before. That's l'chayra. Now you realize what by saying there's a lot of shilas now that you'll be able to on your own figure out. Let's say somebody comes and he opens up a bottle for you on Shabbos. You don't open bottles. It's a big sugya. Yes to open bottles, not to open bottles. You don't open bottles, right? So now, l'maisa, what happens if somebody opens a bottle for you? You don't open bottles. Let's try and figure out how many reasons why it wouldn't be a problem for you to use that bottle. Now, everybody said there's a whole different shmoozer, right? You have to ask him to open the bottle. It's a different shayla. It's a shayla of Amirali Yisrael. If you hold it to mamish aser, you can't say those words. If you hold opening a bottle is like turning on a light, and you paskin like that, not as a chumrah, you hold like that. So then you can't say turn on light, open bottle. I'm not talking about that shayla. And the other way, let's say you're just machmir. So then the stomach, you are going to be allowed to say it because you don't hold it really aser. So let's not get involved in that shayla. Let's get involved in the shayla. You're at a table and somebody opens up a bottle. Are you allowed to use it? Let's try and figure out all the reasons why such a thing would be mutter. I did see that they bring down from the Chazanish, maybe not like this. I am in the Sefer Maase Ish and Chelik Beis in the 105th page. But the pashtus is that such a thing is going to be mutter. Let's see. First of all, everybody say, nobody did anything to the drink. So the only question at hand is, can I use the cap? The Maase that was done was in the cap. The drink is for sure not a problem. Nobody did something to the drink. The drink wasn't changed. There's no, second of all, there's ways to get that drink beheter. You don't open the cap, but you could smash a hole in the cap, or you could cut open the bottle. There's ways to get it beheter. Maybe, like we said, they never made a Ma'aseh Shabbos. What about using the cap itself? So everybody say, the person who's doing it, he's at least a Hoyras Chacham. He's at least a Shraga. So the Shraga on a Ma'aseh Shabbos. So don't forget the Gra. The Gra holds Shraga on a Ma'aseh Shabbos is mutter. But the Shulchan Aruch says, no, it's the Ma'aseh Shabbos. So Ma'aseh Shabbos is also even B'Shraga. That's the sheet of the Shulchan Aruch. So now you have all these other svaras. Maybe you have, like I said, that it's, we forgot one svara. Remember, Rabbi Yisai, when there's a suffix plugsa, when there's a suffix amongst the poiskim, so then maybe there's no Ma'aseh Shabbos b'chal. How could you say there's a Ma'aseh Shabbos when Rosh Hashanah Zalman would go and open it himself? Let's say the plastic ones, I think Rosh Hashanah Zalman was more maker on, right? So this is an example. Same thing about Yisai. With opening cans in general, etc. Let's say you don't open cans in Shabbos. Ramesh has a long truth at the end. He says, maybe Medina it's mutter to open cans, but you shouldn't open up the can. So now you want to know, if somebody opened up a can, could you use the contents inside? Somewhat the same shiloh. The contents themselves should certainly not be awesome. Ubefrat is Piskim that are actually makel to open it. No, so it's a suffix Ma'aser Shabbos. So Bezoi, you'd be able to be makel. Now, by side, there's a lot of Geshmak Shilos in Ma'aser Shabbos. What happens if somebody came to your room, your light was on in your room, and they turned off the light? Are you allowed to sleep in your room? You're allowed to sleep in your room that night. So this is an interesting thing, Rabbi said. We never found anywhere in the whole sugya of Ma'aser Shabbos a indirect hana. We only found positive hana. We never found the hana of a siluk, of a removal. As hana. I could say it even more. Theoretically, I could just sleep with a thing around my eyes, right? So, but it's more than that, Rabbi said. There's no hana over here. You didn't get a hana. Which brings us to another shaila. It's a big shaila. Let's say the big shaila of electricity in Eretz Yisrael. It's a big shaila. It is clear in the Metzias that they are doing things on Shabbos and they're doing things on Yidei Yisrael. That is clear in the Metzias. So now the shaila becomes, how are you allowed to use electricity on Shabbos? And there are many people, because of this, that do not use electricity on Shabbos. But is there any yet that use electricity on Shabbos? So they say, because it's for the chaylim. You know, Rabbi say, it's a very difficult svara. You know why? Because every drop, whoever knows what's going on in the electric company over here knows that every drop of fuel and oil, and not oil, but electricity that's used, they go and burn more coals. So, you know what it's like, Rabbi say, and you think about it in essence, it's like a person goes to a hospital and there's a chayla that says to him, I must have a tea. So you go and make a tea, you're going to the chayla, and then you make that tea for the chayla, right? And then you drink that tea. When it was made for that person. It's made better. Now you drink it, now it's going to mechayev you to make another tea. So that's in essence, when you leave on your air conditioning and your lights and your this and your that, so what happens? It's for the chaylim. No, because now you're using the electricity that would have been for the chaylim, and now it's causing them to do more. So therefore, to use electricity in Shabbos is a very, very big shaila. You know, anybody who says it's not a shaila is either the biggest Amoritz in the world or the Gadol Hador, because those are the only two people that get down the shaila. You know, the person that doesn't know anything will say no shaila. The person's a Gadol Hador. If there's a Gadol out there that says that it's mutter, okay, they're chashuv HaRav. But Ma'aseh is a very big shaila. What's an afkamina? Afkamina is like this. So let's say a person says, okay, I'm not holding by not using lights on Shabbos and this and that and whatever. And I know there's a shaila out there. Is there any eitzah for me? So maybe one could have thought that a shtickle eitzah. The issue is to get hanoah from the Ma'aseh Shabbos. So maybe what I'll do is like this. I'll have a battery light, and I'll put a battery light, light that doesn't work on electricity. I'll plug it in before Shabbos, and it lasts now for 6 hours. The whole Friday night, I have that light. And then I have my lights, but I'm not getting hanoah. I'm getting what's called tosefes hanoah. So maybe Ma'aseh Shabbos, the only time they asked it was when you're getting hanoah. But if I'm getting just tosefes hanoah, and I was able to do it anyways, let's say I would have been able to read anyways. So is that considered a hanoah? Is that also included in Ma'aseh Shabbos? Now you have to know that the great Goyin of Moshe did not hold of what I just said. The great Goyin of Moshe held that the svaras of Tosefes hanoah are only svaras in Amira La'akum. In Amira La'akum, says the Goyin of Moshe, where the nidain is, am I going to ask him to do something for me? So we're going to say you don't feel like you got something from the Goyin, because I'm already able to read. So therefore, if there's a light on and the guy is turning on a different light, I didn't get something from the guy enough that I'm going to come to ask him. But it says for Moshe, safe. If you have a light and you're able to read now better, says the guy of Moshe, Avada, that's called hanoah. Avada, you've been mitzias, you're getting hanoah. So the Moshe is not happy about this. The Stipler did hold of such a chilik. So maybe there would be a little bit of a makim to be makel. Another example, everybody said, let's say a person, he takes water without realizing, he takes it straight from the sink and he pours it into his cholent because his cholent is burning out. Here, there's a great, tremendous geoinus from the Mincha Shleim over here. He cooked the water on Shabbos. He's cooking it inside a cholent. Okay, he's a shaygeg, but we said before, cholent might not be a tzarech. Is he allowed to eat this cholent on Shabbos? He took water straight from the sink and poured it inside the cholent. So here there's a tremendous goyinus from the Goyin Shlema Zalman, Mincha Shleima, the beginning of Siman Hey. He says an unbelievable chiddush, which is complicated, has to do with your day. I'll just tell you the parts that in the Geos. He says the water goes in. The first second the water goes in, it didn't cook that second. And then at that point, it was a readiness Arav. Now that it's a readiness Arav, so then he says that's already after, and it got Mis'arev, so it's possible that such a thing is no Ma'aseh Shabbos. In addition to the facts is going to Shlomo Zalman that maybe we don't say Ma'aseh Shabbos when there's no positive anah. Here it's just making my cholent not burn out. It's a Minias Hezek. Listen to the guy in Shlomo Zalman who had him hoisted Mayim b'Shabbos, the Toich the Tavshil. The Toich says it's Mis'arev into the other water before it gets to Yatzaleret. The Kamen Shenaktina Afilam Etzem Adover in Hachalois Isser Natzeh. The Isser came only after it was Mis'arev. So on that we say it's bottle, and we don't say it's Davar Sheish L'Matirim. Gain Shlomo Zalman. What he did over here, Rabbi Yisai, so very ridiculous belt for Shlomo Zalman. So this Rabbi Yisai, in a nutshell, mamish in a nutshell, is a sugya Ma'aseh Shabbos. I must tell you that the shaila of the train is not so much related to our sugya, because Rabbi Yisai, the train, the ikar shailas of the train and the buildings that were not done by the Jews. Jews don't like to get their hands dirty, Rabbi Yisai, certainly not with that kind of stuff. So the stuff that was done, the actual building and the tracks and all that, was done by Goyim. And ironically, it's a much more chamer shaila, because if it would have been Ayidei Jews, we could have said, let's say they're mazid, but it's for a cherim, and therefore it would be mutter. And maybe we have to wait, Kadesh Yasu, okay, Chiloinim and whatnot, okay, right? But Rabbi Yisai, if it's Amir La'akum, there's a Shulchan Aruch in Siman Shin Chafei, I think it was in Sifri Daled maybe. Over there, the Shulchan Aruch says that when Goyim are asked to do things for you, Bifar Hesia, we answer that oilamis. There's a machloikis on that statement I just made. Mishnah Berurah brings down, that's the sheet of the Rambam. And the Mishnah Berurah says you should be machmir like the Rambam. But he brings down a Ran that says, no, it's not a statement everywhere. It's only in that specific case over there that the Gemara was talking about, was that they built a kever for a Yisrael on Shabbos. But Akapanim Mishnah Berurah Psak Halacha, I think, let's see. I didn't plan on talking about this, but I think it was in Shin Kafei, I think in Sifri Dalit over here, that the Shulchan Aruch says, yeah, it's still here, but he said, the Mishnah Berurah brings down that it's Asar Lamis, even though usually we give you Kadesh Yasu, but here's a Milsa Farhesia. The train was the most Farhesia thing ever built in Eretz Yisrael. Every single Shabbos, they used to say before Shabbos, we're closing this road, and we're closing that road, and we're building on the Shabbos. So that, if it would have been Jews, then it would have been less of a Shiloh. But now that it was Goyim, there's a tzad to Aser taking the train, Loilam. The Shabbos Psak Halacha is, as he says, but you should know that the Ran is not like that. Al Kain ein lahachmir beis atzayrich. So the person wants to know, is he allowed to take the train in Eretz Yisrael? Ein lahachmir beis atzayrich. If you have no tzayrich, so then you should be machmir. If you still want to see what the train looks like, then you should be machmir. No, the ganze sugya Rabbi Yisai, it's geschmack sugya Ma'aseh Shabbos. Halvai v'zeicha zayin taka, that we're only learning the sugya l'shma, and that we shouldn't know from the Chilul Shabbos chas v'shalom, and Shabbos should always be a shmira for all of us.